Hello, this is Kevin from Alien Reptile. Welcome to our first YouTube video. Here we breed hypo puzzles mainly, but in this video we want to show you guys what we think we have floating around in our puzzle project. Our third season rather of breeding visual puzzles, and this year we bred our first male that we produced to the original double het female that we bought from Sean Bradley over at Exotics by Nature, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, roughly. With that first time male, we saw that he looked a little different. His head stamp was a little different, and we figured that we'd try to breed him back to his mom or dame to see if we could produce anything super. And I think we did produce something super. In this video, we're going to show you a couple of different animals that raised our suspicions and what we think now is a Super Blade Hypo Puzzle that we produced this year. So thanks for tuning in. Hopefully it's a decent video, and let's get to the snakes. Alright, so here's Hamster, and he's basically our go-to for a typical puzzle. You know, he has long lateral stripes on both sides. 0 to no keyholes, no tight back pattern except for when you get to the head, and the neck area is kind of long and has some blushing. The belly is all white. He's got some white from the belly coming up, just like a real beautiful, for what I think is a typical puzzle pattern. Another thing is it's kind of thin. And, you know, no marking on the top of the head. I try to get better lighting. As you can see, you know, no real head stamps. The eye bands, eye stripe is a little thick, connects on the bottom. This is what we use for a typical puzzle. Here's another one that's very typical to Hamster, and another baseline for us for a puzzle. So you can see another thin lines, a couple of keyholes. Again, this one has a little bit more of spacing on the back, the same blushing as Hamster did. Hamster is actually the sire to this female. Same thing with the sides, has some whites from the belly coming up. No real head stamp to speak of. Just a little lighter there. The eye stripe is pretty much the same as the father. A little connecting on the bottom, and that's it. And here's a nice example of why they call it the puzzle. That little piece right here. And a nice female. So here's where it starts to get a little different for us. This girl's in shed, so I'm going to do this kind of quick. First off, the head right here, she has a little bit of a head stamp, a little bit of that like semicircle right there. Her eye stripe is a little bit wider, connects a little bit more. Her side pattern is just a little bit thicker, and also the back towards her dorsal towards the back gets a little tighter, a little less blacks in the way. It does have some more spacing in the neck, just like the other two, with some blushing. And, you know, this pattern right here, we see this repeat itself a lot, right on top of the base of the neck. We see that a lot, and that's basically it for this one. Now, this is the hypo version, another female, same pairing. As you can see, go with the head again. Has that little marking right there. Again, hypo, you're going to have more blushing on the back and on the dorsal and everything, but her sides, no keyholes again. It's just wider and like a little tighter on the back. Just less voids. Very nice, very pretty. Again, not the typical, like the first two we saw with the keyholes and a thinner pattern. Still has like the long neck stripe. Let's see if we could get a good picture of the eye stripe. It's pretty much like the last female we saw. Right there, a little wider, connects more to the bottom. And basically that's it for this one. So here's another one deep in shed, but this guy was the sire to a lot of the pairings we did this year. And as you can see, still has that dot right here. Everything else kind of seems like the other typical, the first two that we saw, the typical puzzles that we have, minus that it's a hypo and shed. No keyhole, some keyholes along the sides here, thin, lateral striping. The pattern is a little tight on top, but the same thing, not too hard, but again, very thin lateral stripes on the side. But because we saw that dot on its head, it made us think that, hey, let's try it and see what happens. Now here's the dame to all of our visual puzzle stock. Now, as you can see, she has very thick side pattern, very little keyhole, looks very bladish to me. Couple of keyholes over here, but along the side it's just big voids. Nice, just like blade looking, what I call a typical blade, I guess, for us anyway, because we don't have any other blade in our stock. But at the same time, she has that same dot right there, right on the top of the head. Her eye stripe, kind of, yeah, typical eye stripe. Again, very, very blade-like, nice and clean along here. A few keyholes, but yeah, that's basically what got us thinking that it could be blade. So here's one of her offspring from last year with that first male we saw, hamster. Again, looks very blade-like. No keyholes, big voids on the sides. Just nice and clean, a little brighter when they were hatchlings. Again, this one has a much pronounced head stamp. See if I can get it in there. Almost looks like a stormtrooper helmet. Maybe a poop emoji. Now, this year was the first time we ever had a pairing from a male that we produced ourselves and that female that I showed you earlier. And it gave us one of these. To me, just theory-wise, could look Super Blade. It's cleaner than the other ones that we've hatched. It has, the pattern's a little bit different, a little wider. It's just a brighter animal. The head stamp's pretty much the same. So we get that there. But yeah, it just seems a Super Blade. Make it real quick. Get a couple different shots. So here's what I believe to be a Super Blade puzzle. As you can see, it's just a little different than the other ones. The pattern is a little brighter, a little cleaner. The pattern on top, on the dorsal, is different. The eye stripe is super thick. Let's see if I can get it to calm down a little bit. See right there. Almost has like a spot nose to it, but it has that super wide eye stripe. Almost the entire thing connects to the bottom. You see that neck pattern right here behind the head. Some more of the nice looking puzzle markers on there. And to me, I'm going to have to prove it out, although this one's a male, so I might have to make this available because we have another one similar to this. So here's what we believe to be a Super Blade Hypo Puzzle. As you can see, the sides are nice and wide. The color pops, just super clean. Super bright animal. It has that head stamp right there, and then the eye band's not as wide as the other one, especially along the nose, but you could tell it's just a little bit different, a little wider than the originals that we showed you. It has the keyholes just along, it's the bottom portion of the neck on the sides here, but everything else is just bright and clean and very nice looking. Basically, probably the best puzzle that we have produced here. This one's another meal, definitely staying here to help us prove out if it's a Super Blade or not, or what is going on. But to me, this is the super form of Blade mixed with Hypo and Puzzle. Alright, there you have it. Hopefully the video made sense. I know a lot of people are finding different things popping up in their puzzle projects. That's something that we found in ours. I think something else came up this year with the breeding of our first male and an original double het female. So we're going to probably be making another video of that shortly. But if anybody out there is breeding puzzles and you have something weird coming up, just let us know. Put it down in the comments. See if you let us know if you believe it's Blade. If you have any theories, if it's anything else, we're glad to hear it and look into it. But yeah, thanks for watching our first video, and maybe we'll be back with a couple more down the road.